For me, I can do the whole map of India, not by the monuments, but the kind of textiles I get from different parts, and that for me is very interesting.
Today I have with me Rajesh Pratap Singh, a designer that I think has actually brought India to the modern world. Where does Rajasthan come into your work? I mean, you obviously are from there.
You know, when I started making clothes, everybody used to ask me, "Oh, you're from Rajasthan, where's the color?" The Rajasthan which I grew up, or at least the zone I was in growing up, was more, for example, this white. Because for me, Rajasthan is, in a strange way, white. If you look at it, apart from a certain class, the normal people on the street in the desert are wearing white. So that's what I grew up with.
And actually, it's interesting that now that you mention it, I can see where some of this is coming from, for example.
So it's just that for me, Rajasthan is a very pure place. And for that same reason, Kerala for me is a very pure place. For me, that gold and white is something which I can't
Did you
forget.
do anything about Kerala in the very early days?
I've always worked with the Kerala sari as a reference.
Yeah.
For me, there's a beautiful purity in that part of the world, which again gets completely overshadowed by the religious monuments or the movies or whatever, like Mumbai or like whole of
Like
India.
a lot of India, yeah.
So, but there is an undercurrent which, or it's something that's my reference.
Yeah, you know,
My
it's an
reference is that quite a part, as G.V. Sethi once told me, that there are two parts of India, one is religious and one is spiritual. So you have to catch or decide which way you want to go. So
That's very interesting because I come from Kerala and I've always,
Oh, do you? Okay.
and for me that white is what I grew up with, the simplicity of that white, and I still love to wear the dhoti, the double, and in Kerala of course there's something called a double dhoti, which is
Yeah,
actually
of course.
very thin, which I
And it's
love.
so modern.
It's so contemporary, and
You can, you can use it in so many different ways.
Yeah,
but it's a pure piece.
And I've always wondered. So, for example, take the Kerala sari idea. I've wondered why we don't do furnishings out of that. For example,
There's somebody I know who's doing it.
is it?
Beautiful.
Oh, is it? I must check this out because because it feels great, right? I mean, the cloth just feels it feels great.
It's a perfect sheer. You just have to hang it.
That's right.
It's
That's right.
perfect. It looks beautiful. It's clean. It's minimal. No nonsense.
Right.
So I just discovered you from Kerala. So tell me about that one, because Kerala is for me, it's inspiration is a big word. So let's say I have a lot of references from Kerala.
I can tell you about Kerala.
Okay.
And I tell you about Kerala because I have, in a very interesting way, a kind of schizophrenic life. I spent till my age of 11, I grew up in Kerala, and then I came to Delhi.
Wow.
And
it's
it's a very interesting, and it gave me something very interesting, which is that I took what happened to me in Kerala, or the life I had, or the visual life I had, absolutely for granted, because that to me was the world.
Yeah.
The deep green, the complete white. I think that a sense of basic purity, of simplicity. Let me put purity, simplicity, which is why I get very attracted to this stuff. Is very much part of the way I think about things. So, for example, dhoti for me is something I enjoy. The other day I wore it to office and created quite a sensation. But because and not because of anything else, because I actually wear it and I'm very comfortable with it, and I actually think that it's one of the most comfortable attire you can have, right? So I just enjoy it.
But why not? Why not wear traditional or clothes which are not inspired, which have references from where we belong at workspace? We have this bipolar thing, I have this really close friend who's a businessman and quite a successful businessman, and he keeps telling me that I love to wear my kurtas, and he wears a lot of Fab India kurtas. I love to wear my kurtas all the time, but when I have to meet a business associate, especially out of India, I have to go back to that. I have to get my MS tie, or I have to wear my ZNS suit, and that I find a bit confusing. What I love about our Indian women, especially as they go, working women, the higher they go on the, they'll go back to the sari, which I think is beautiful.
And the only reason, Rajesh, is that you can't get it. If I wanted good, high quality men's fashion that I can wear globally, that takes reference points in a very contemporary way, not over the top, right? In a contemporary way, it's not that easily available.
Indian fashion is evolving. A lot of kids are getting this point, and in the future you'll see more and more of that. And there'll always be two references, like Mr. Sethi said, that it's going to be the religion and the spiritual.
That's actually quite an interesting way of thinking about it, right? In many ways, one would think that India and Japan, in so many ways, are so totally different. And then, as you again peel the onion, you get a sense that actually there is so much commonality, right?
Totally.
And that goes back to your spiritual approach type thing. What it means for India is that there is that type of India which is spare, elegant, clean, simple.
It exists. Japan is one country where they have such beautiful indigos. I love buying some of the fabrics from there. For example, a lot of these selvage denims which I use come from two amazing mills in Japan.
And where in Japan does this come from?
This comes from two mills, Kaihara and Kuroki mills. They make one of the finest indigos in the world. And as you know, indigo comes from Indus Valley, like India, and and it played a big role, as you know, in our freedom struggle. So it's this whole idea of indigo which fascinates me, and I keep doing it.
For me, denim has always come from reading cowboy novels, right?
Well, that's
the
how it started.
Yeah, and much later I learned that the blue of the denim is actually an Indian thing of the indigo, and so for me that came as a huge surprise, right? In so many things across the world, you find in suddenly in some strange way a reference back to our land, right? In so many places, and it's just fascinating. It's probably because it's one of the oldest civilizations, it had to happen.
There's so much of history, so much has already happened, and it's nice to revive it as academic research, but the point is, how are you going to take it further? What is how, and also when I say further, how are you going to commercialize it? Because it should have a connect to everyday life and a regular person. Then only it makes sense, and then only you can affect it in a bigger thing. Otherwise, it's just for the books, right?
It's very interesting that you say. In fact, they say that about languages.
Really?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So, why does a language die, or why does a language live? They said a language dies if it's not used, and a language lives if it's used. So, it's as simple as that. So, it's not about the beauty of the construction of the grammar or none of that.
Yeah.
It's simply people used it, and so English language, as we know today, not considered a fancy language in that sense, but the whole world seems to use it now. So what you're saying actually makes a lot of sense, right? It's the same thing with clothes and design, right? If it's not used, it becomes an artifact.
I think languages, you got it right.
Interesting. You got an interesting job.
That's the only job I know. I'm Rajesh Pratap Singh. I'm part of the Holiday IQ travel community.